Lin, also Pokemon Reborn's main antagonist, Lin, also known as Lindsay Peria, is depicted in two separate characters and has a unique character backstory that is not widely known by everyone, and can only be fully known if you were to play through the main and post-game multiple times. Today, I will be going over every major plot point in Lin's backstory and current story, as well as explaining everything in her life events that led up to her becoming the ruler of a god. Fair warning, this video will contain not only major spoilers for the entirety of Pokemon Reborn, but we'll also discuss some sensitive topics, such as child abuse. Without further ado, let's get into the earliest point of Lin's backstory. Lin's story starts with her, as well as her mother and father in Reborn City, where her father would abuse her and perform other suspected things to her for unknown reasons. It is until one day when Lin's mother finds out what he had been doing to their child and kills him out of anger. She then attempts to drown Lin as a mercy act to prevent her from having to suffer with her father's actions. Her mother realizes that her own actions are completely wrong and stops trying to drown Lin, and apologizes profusely for her actions. From this point, Lin's mother takes her own life, thus leaving Lin on her own in the streets of Reborn. This is until a young girl named Terra finds Lin on a stormy day in the streets of Reborn. When Terra asks Lin where her parents are, she cries at the question. Terra, acknowledging that Lin has no one looking out for her, takes Lin back to her home in Barrow Ward to figure out where she needs to be. Terra claims that maybe someday they can both stop living in fear. It is from this point they both become great friends. When Lin arrives at Terra's home, her family seems to be welcoming of her until they can figure out what has happened and why she's in the streets. They set Lin up in a storeroom, although cramped, they claim it's hers for as long as she needs, as well as Terra's mother showing proper care for Lin and even offering her hot cocoa. Throughout her time with Terra's family, she began to convince Terra to get out of the so-called cookie-cutter lifestyle by breaking the rules, as in the end, everything is pointless. During this time, Terra's father became concerned about Terra acting strange since Lin's arrival, and suggested that proper boundaries between the two should be put in place. Lin had also not once left in the storeroom that they had set up for her, and instead stayed with Terra. Terra's father begins to look further into where Lin came from, and when Lin finds out that they were looking deeper into her past, she feels rejected by the family, causing her to run away from their home and back out onto the streets. Until she is found by Dr. Sigmund Connal, who gives Lin the typical speech about the real definition of Asylum, and is brought to the orphanage to stay until she is the age of 18, where she will be free as an adult. During her time in the orphanage, she becomes mischievous and manipulative by extorting people's secrets and using them to her advantage, as well as manipulating the orderly, such as John, to obtain privileges and pushing the boundaries within the orphanage. She also starts a chess rivalry with Anna, and is the only one that can defeat her in chess. This rivalry would soon be the cause of Lin becoming lost and finding Arceus. While Lin is at the orphanage, it is made clear that she is neglected by other children and harassed due to the hell that she puts other children through. She also, on multiple occasions, is sent to the circuit for her actions. One day, during a chess match with Anna, Lin is winning a match until Anna turns the game around and win, causing Lin to throw a fit and Sigmund getting involved, which has both Lin and Sigmund yelling at each other. The orderly escort all the children to their cells, where Lin is taken by Sigmund and put into the circuit, but later escapes, never to be seen again by other children in the orphanage. While Lin escapes from the orphanage, at some point, she falls under the grand stairway into Citae Astrae, where it is noted by Adrian that they saw a girl climbing the walls of the cavern. While Lin is climbing, she ends up falling directly into the sanctum, where she's trapped inside with no resources and only a meteor. While Lin lays on the ground, severely injured, a sound is heard from the meteor, and Arceus appears before her. Lin would attempt to shoo it away until it heals her injuries, and with a single offer of a marshmallow, Lin befriends the Arceus, but remains trapped in the sanctum with it. While trapped in the chamber, Lin takes care of Arceus, and Arceus blesses her with its power. Desperate to escape, Lin creates her puppet to free herself from the sanctum, and eventually the new world. And that is all the information for Lin's backstory, which describes what her past was like and what led up to her obtaining Arceus. Her next story brings us to the main story, where the protagonist arrives into a Reborn region and battles against Team Meteor and Lin's puppet. Not all information from the main story will be mentioned, as it would extend this into an extremely long video, but all important scenes that relate to her story will be mentioned, as well as a brief description of what the puppet is like. Let's get into it. The first appearance of Lin in the main story is in Rhodocron Jungle. She is known to have been a quiet but ruthless villain that was capable of defeating Heather, who was a member of the Elite Four, and Amaria, the 16th gym leader, back-to-back with ease. Even throughout the rest of the main story, she is shown as to even been able to defeat the champion of the Reborn League, whilst being at a severe type disadvantage. Throughout her journey with the puppet, her goal is to obtain the 4 keys to open the Citae Astrae seal, and does this by manipulating Team Meteor, as they both share a common goal of attaining the keys. Using the puppet, however, was difficult for Lin, especially when it came to talking, which was explained why that when the puppet spoke, it was brief and intimidating. The puppet showed unnatural abilities as well, such as extreme speed, strength, and invincibility, as shown when killed by Titania and appearing moments later unscathed. It is also stated by Taka that Lin is narcoleptic, due to Lin either getting bored of the puppet and setting it down like a toy for later, until she's ready to play with it again, or because of how exhausting it is to control. Lin also recruits Terra into Team Meteor, and was essentially her right hand. Terra was also the only one to know of Lin's plans to free herself from Citae. She also knew what was going to happen, and how Lin would let the protagonist win in the end. During the Tanzan Meteor Base raid, if you have Laura with you in the Tanzan Depths, she makes reference to the Lin that she knew in the Orphanage, and how, as previously stated, was manipulative and extorted people's secrets, until she disappeared one day after an incident with Sigmund. She would also target Laura's OCD for fun by breaking her pens if she had exactly 8 of them, to bring them down to 7. It is also shown during the main game that Lin shows no apparent memory of the people from her past, or hesitation to deny it, such as Sigmund or Laura. This is most likely due to her trying to conceal who she really is, or keep her identity a secret. It should also be noted that this dialogue can only be obtained if you follow some of the steps of the Reshiram route. This step would pertain to having Saphira kidnapped rather than Laura or the twins in the Belarus raid, and then you'll team up with Laura to take down the Meteor base. As the story goes on, Lin climbs the ranks of Team Meteor by selling out her superiors, such as Ace, or attempting to kill them, such as Sirius with the Trap Brooch, until she claims herself as the leader of Team Meteor during the Agate City battle, when Solaris is unfit to hold leadership of Team Meteor. Skipping ahead to Victory Road and the end of the main game, once you've completed the Elite Four and defeated Lin for the first time, you will be brought to Citae Astrae by her Pulse Abra, and, with the 4 keys in hand, forced to open the seal. While you traverse the final chamber, she'll make reference to previous events in her past, such as her father abusing her and her mother trying to murder her. When you defeat Lin for a second time, she will reveal her true self to the player, but not before killing Puppet Lin before us in a similar way to what we saw back in Shade's Gym, and either let you go to continue playing her games with the protagonist, or, if you're on the Anna Smiles route, attempt to kill the protagonist, seeing them as a threat to her goals, which are also revealed to the protagonist of wanting to escape Citae. At the point of being able to go free, she no longer wants to do so because of how much fun it is and the endless possibilities of the new world. If you're on the Anna Smiles route, with help from Anna altering reality for our success, you'll be brought down to the real Lin, who is located on Citae Astrae meteor with her pulse Arceus behind her. Lin will begin to mock Anna's efforts for disappearing due to the effects of reality alteration, and will claim that altering reality comes to her naturally now, thanks to the power of Arceus. Lin ended up constructing the pulse Arceus early, and transporting it down here long before the protagonist even arrived. She will also mention that she used our pulse not to mature Arceus, but so it is different, and not ending up in the void like any other Pokemon, that Arceus is hers. She will then attempt to pity the player with the events of her past that led up to where she is now. After this, she will try to claim that we, the player, are not in control of the protagonist, but that she is in control and the protagonist is her second puppet. You will battle her moments later, or she will only use her Arceus. When you beat her, she will be betrayed by Arceus and seemingly killed. The next and final part of Lin's story is the post-game, where she is only seen in the Lin route. Most information provided has already previously been mentioned in this video, so with that being said, a good chunk of the post-game will not be mentioned to save competitiveness. With that being said, let's get into the post-game. Throughout the post-game, Lin is not physically seen, but she will constantly stalk the player and mock their efforts, or do things such as forcing the protagonist to release Pokemon from their PC. All she wishes to do is to have fun with what she believes is her second puppet. Lin is also seemingly in control of the new world, but has shown at multiple occasions that she does not have full control of certain areas, and things such as lore in the Manaphy ruins or the Mew playroom in general were created without her knowledge. Find Lin during a flashback in the Jirachi quest with Euphie, where we will battle her for the first time while she uses Pokemon she stole from the Orderly. After this, she will intentionally burn herself with a cigarette to get Charlotte in trouble. She will also offer Euphie a forged doctor's note, as she overheard Sigmund denying Euphie one previously. If Lin gave her that note, things would have turned out a lot different from what we know. When you reach the end of the postgame, your final battle will be located in the New World Asylum, where you'll find dialogue indicating her backstory, which was previously brought up at the start of the video. When you reach Lin, she will seem bored, after expecting an army of people to show up, only for it to just be the protagonist. After you defeat Lin, she only seems to care about protecting Arceus, as is all that she has left. When you defeat Arceus, she seems to check if Arceus is hurt, to which she is pushed to the ledge by the now free and enraged god. It is then up to the player whether they save Lin or not. If she is left to fall, she'll mention that this is how it ends, and imagine going out in a blaze of glory, and that this ending had sucked, and then proceeds to fall into the New World Void and presumably killed. Later, if you have the Ebony Stone piece, however, she'll say something different than what she originally says in the flashback, mentioning so much for the blaze of glory, as well as having a similar injury to what she had when Arceus attacked her. This brings up the possibility and theory of Lin's story being in a loop, and is only broken if the player saves her from dying. If she is saved by the character, she'll mostly be confused, as she originally believed that she was indeed in control of the protagonist, but now seeing that we chose to save her, understands that we are indeed a person and not just her puppet. She will suggest that the protagonist catch Arceus, as it is still enraged. Once you do this, you can either leave her to go on her own way, or take her with you back to the nightclub. If you leave her there, that will be the last time you see her. If you take her back to the nightclub, you will share some dialogue with her, and even have the option to share some lemonade with her, and is shown to not be a heartless or devoid of emotion villain, and even cries over lemonade, as a memory to her past childhood that she did not get to live. When Lin is brought back to the nightclub, she will sit on a couch in a corner, away from everyone else. If you talk to her, she'll be confused as to why people are not only not killing her, but even talking to her. She doesn't understand, and states that she has a lot to think about. Terra even came around to her, and still wants to be her friend, despite after everything Lin did to her. At a certain point in the nightclub dialogue, she'll mention how everything is too much for a small 14-year-old girl. However, that she does not feel 14, and that she has to be somewhere around 20 years old by now. This could most likely be due to the altered time Citae Astrae, similar to how Adrian was trapped in Citae for 10 years, but for her, it was only an hour. Hey everyone, it's Dread, after editing at the end of the video. I firstly want to apologize for misgendering Adrian at the end. My mistake there. Next up is throughout the video. Obviously at some points I'll sound a little more quiet and depressed during it. During this Sony Vegas, my editing software ended up crashing a lot, and a lot of footage was lost, which is why at some points during it there will just be battles shown in the background against Lin rather than the actual footage, as going through 7,000 saves to find one point in the game is not fun. Next, I'd like to obviously thank Ame and Cass for mainly helping out with this. I ended up contacting them to ask them some questions about Lin and confirming some things, and they helped out with it a lot. They answered the questions. It was great. They ended up making this video what it was. Obviously, first video I've ever made like this. I haven't done anything like it before, so I hope it turned out all right. Any kind of suggestions in the comment, I'm open to it. And if I missed anything, shoot a message. I'd love to hear it. I'd love to hear some people's theories as to what Lin's future is like, and maybe some other things that could be discussed. Hope you all liked it, and I'll see y'all later.